Hi, I'm Rachael Bartels. I run Accenture's mining practice based in London.
Can you tell me what you do for Accenture?
Yeah, well, when I run our mining practice, we have a big, hold on. For Accenture, we work in the mining sector in three broad areas. We do general business consulting, helping to improve performance around things like operational excellence, in the mines, in the smelters, concentrators. We also help around technology, around data analytics in the mining sector. We also do work in helping to put in big, large systems. And finally, we also help them run parts of their business.
Meeting with miners right now, what is the number one issue that they're coming to you with?
The biggest issue right now is the uncertainty around the pricing. So, and that's leading them to actually worry about their costs. And in effect, it's quite, you can't control your revenue base because the market prices are actually fluctuating for the commodities. And so they're saying we actually need to take a far harder look at our cost bases. And we're seeing it in the operations space and in capital projects.
What do you see then as they're taking? They're just not spending money right now, or are there other actions that they're taking right now? And what are you recommending to the clients?
They definitely haven't stopped spending money. It's all about spending money far smarter. And the things that we're actually talking to clients about is really thinking about how they put their capital projects together. So looking at, depending on where they are in the phases, rethinking how they actually build the mine, chunking up the program in different ways. We're looking at using different kinds of technologies. We're looking at different kinds of approaches, onshore, offshore, to actually how they run essential services as they're building up the capital project. And on the operations space, they're really looking at how they can improve productivity.
What do you think will change in the environment to actually give people a better outlook?
Okay, better outlook. Urbanization is going to continue.
Yeah.
The reality is China's not finished, even though we're in a bit of a ropey situation. India is not finished, and Africa hasn't even started. So I think the long-term fundamentals are there. And if you're in the copper business or in the gold business, things are looking a lot brighter than if you are, for example, in the iron ore sector right now. But I think that fundamental commodity demand is going to actually continue. The key in terms of the outlook is you need to be able to manage your position with all the volatility that's going on. And the winners, I think, in the sector are going to be the ones who actually manage across the cycle, not just when they're making lots of money because the commodity prices are up, but when they come off the boil a bit, they're still in really good positions because they got good assets and they're actually leveraging all their skills and capabilities to extract the optimum value out of those assets.
Do you notice a difference in sentiment between like the majors and the miners, the juniors right now?
I think the sentiment isn't driven by the size of the organization. The sentiment is actually driven off the quality of the assets they have or how well they're extracting the base. So if you're small but you're sitting on a good asset, then actually, in terms of, top quartile performance, then you're in a good position. But if you're a major and you're not sitting on the best assets, then you're worried. So it's actually about what ore bodies you've got.
Do you notice any difference regionally right now as well, or does it just have to do with the commodity that they're sitting on right now?
I'm seeing far more fluctuations based on which commodity they're in.
How about geopolitical risk right now? Have you seen changes right now, or in terms of nationalization seems to be something that's coming up? Do you see more? Are people trending something towards more that it's becoming less friendly to mining, or is it neutral right now?
I don't actually think it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
The miners have always been in the press for their developments, both positively and negatively. Resource nationalism has been a problem for a long time, and I don't really see it being fundamentally different. It may be a country that previously was a bit more friendly towards the mining communities has become less friendly, and then another country is actually changed. Mm-hmm. I think the key for the miners is really about how do they position themselves as developer of choice. So in our Mining 2020, one of the key strategies is actually how do you position yourself as a developer of choice? And that's not just where you already have the asset. So if you're in Australia, for example, but also when you're going into new countries, you can't just say you're going to develop the mine and provide tax revenues. You've got to do more than that. You've got to be talking about how you're going to actually help build the nation. innovation, because that's what the developing or the emerging markets are actually looking for.
Can you give a case example of somebody that does that well and somebody that might have actually been pursuing the same strategy but did not do it well?
It's hard to give examples of somebody who's uniformly done it well or done it badly. There's plenty of examples where people have gotten kicked out of the country, or they've lost deposits. I'd say there's still plenty of room to go to actually prove what you're actually capable of doing. So what I mean by that is the governments, depending on what government is actually in power at the time, they tend to look for different things. And so part of the success stories, I think, for the miners is if they can both ride the wave of the change in, political sentiment, and they can be continually actually demonstrating that they're giving back. And I think that's really the key. And they have to give back, not just financially. They have to give back in terms of how they're developing the nation.
We're at MINExpo. We're at Las Vegas. What are your plans? Who do you want to see for the show here this week?
Well, I'm going to wander around and see, look at all the equipment manufacturers, see who's here, and talk a lot to the various miners who are actually looking around. I'm interested to find out what people are doing around new technology, because that's a key player around the productivity space for the mining operations. But I'm also looking to see what people are actually starting to do around the people agenda, because in the end, it's not robots that run mines, it's people.
What's the most exciting piece of technology right now? What are you looking for right now? Is it has to do around automation mostly, or is there something having to do with processes as well?
For me, I think the whole automation piece is actually very exciting. But the piece that you don't see, and which I think is actually the place where there's a huge amount of value, is actually around data analytics. Because, once you've got the automation in place, once you've got more systems in place, it's what do you do with the data? And what we're finding is the analysis that you can do in that space is actually, and the data, what it tells you about how you're running your operation from, pit to port, is actually where you can make significant transformative value for your company.
Can you think of an example where, a surprising productivity gain, or something that when they were actually able to get this data, how they used it and how they improved their performance?
I'm not at liberty to talk about specific details, from our clients. But what you can do, if you actually, scan the press, recently, there have been a couple of announcements by the big majors, where they're actually putting in place data factories.
Thank you very much.